I'm making you a screencast video again to explain the oral directions for annotated bibliography number 3. So a little bit different than what I did in the last two. I'm actually decided to provide you a little quick checklist. This gives you a little preview of what's coming, and then when you come back to the end of the assignment, you can just make sure that you've have everything. I love little checklists for my own life. They're cognitive tools that help us stay organized and efficient. So for this response, you're going to be playing around with some literacy strategies that you can put into your toolkit that you can use in your own classroom. I'm introducing a couple that I love that I actually used when I was a middle school teacher. Again, these are tried and true. They're old, but they still work. And so I hope you have some fun with them. So I will explain all of this and come back to this checklist at the end. But again, you can just simply make little checks when you finish everything. Another thing that I don't feel I've been able to have time to explain in class, and I just want to share, the first two annotated bibliographies had a lot of reading, and there is some reading here, but I also included a lot of videos this time around. I want you to know the first 8 weeks of this course, I'm kind of front loading a lot of the bulk of the reading so that you do a lot less reading the last half of the semester. The reason being is the last half of the semester, you're going to be doing a lot of writing. You have to finish up all of your signature assignments that will be closing in by the end of the semester. But you need all of these readings to inform your paper writing. So that's why you're doing a considerable amount of reading the first half of this semester. But again, I try to make it manageable by bringing in some videos as well. So task 1 is to view this video by Puakea Nagelmeyer. If any of you have heard of him, he's a professor, I believe, for 28 years at the University of Hawaii, Hawaiian language, and he was invited to speak at the TEDx Manoa conference. If any of you know the TED Talks, they're actually fantastic. I'm addicted to TED Talks, but he gave one on Hawaii's legacy of literacy. And if you haven't seen it, I want you to watch it. I could watch this over and over. I learn something every time I take it in, especially since I'm a newcomer to Hawaii, only here 7 years, and still just really trying to take in all of the history that I missed since I didn't grow up here. So one of the things that I learned actually early on when I first moved here was in 1825, King Kamehameha III declared, and I apologize, I don't want to read this in fear that I'm going to mess up the Hawaiian, but he said, "My nation will be a nation of literacy." Now, being that I got a master's degree and a PhD in literacy, I was just felt so connected to King Kamehameha right away, that this is his legacy. And what's so amazing is that he was true to his word. And in the middle of 1800s, the Hawaiian Kingdom was nearly a universal in literacy. They embraced the literacy for all, and he didn't just want this for the kings; he wanted it for Hawaii's people. But as time went on, and despite the great care that went into translating Hawaiian language into English, like the newspapers, not everyone benefited from this. And today, we see that nearly half of public school third graders are not meeting the English language arts achievement standards on the annual assessments. So, and this comes up then, same with middle school and high school. So this becomes a really, literacy is an issue for all of us. And this is even more daunting for our vulnerable populations, the economically disadvantaged, given a lot of poverty, our English language learners, SPED students. So we really need to do something about this. And so I really want you to watch this video. And one of the things I want to also say is I took this from a draft. You guys are the first to kind of see this. I'm working with a team of writers to literacy leaders in the state to develop a Hawaii literacy state plan. So I just learned a lot with writing with this team. And so I just wanted to kind of just give you a little snippet of that. And that is just for me to honor the deep legacy of literacy that's already been going on in this state, and being a newcomer and already passionate from the mainland about literacy, this was a way for me to connect and to honor the cultural practices that have already been going on. And so one of the things I want you to do is I want you to use this literacy strategy. It's called 3-2-1. It's a comprehension strategy. You can use this with your own students. And it's not that difficult. You're not really supposed to do a lot of writing. I just want you to engage in this short video, and then I want you to just write down what 3 ideas did you learn? What struck you? One of the pillars of our program, and remember when I shared with you at orientation, is wisdom. And I want you to gain wisdom from Puakea Nagelmeyer. What do you learn from him? So just write 3 brief notes. Also, I want you to make connections. That's how comprehension works. You'll notice that that's a theme of all my literacy strategies. I want you to make connections. And I want you to also think about how this relates to social justice, given that that's such a focus of the secondary ed program. And you can connect that personally, societally, to our Hawaii's culture. You can connect with another text that you've read. A lot of you already have maybe connections with Puakea Nagelmeyer's work. So go for that. And then also one question or wondering you have after viewing this video. So given this cultural context for us to get into, I want you to then transition to reading about watching 3 more videos about disciplinary literacies. The first video is only close to 4 minutes. The second one is about over a little 6.5, and the next one is about 5.5. These 3 scholars, I really spent a lot of hours watching several videos on disciplinary literacies, and while they're very academic, I feel that these 3 scholars are top scholars in the field. They connect it to what's called our CCSS, the Common Core State Standards, which are imposed and used and required of the state of Hawaii. Not all states implement CCSS, but we do. And so I think it's really important for you to see how these 3 scholars talk about it. I think they build, if you watch them in this order, because I think they build off each other. And as you do that, again, use the 3-2-1 strategy again. And because these videos are brief, you can write 3 ideas that struck you. You could take one idea for each video, or maybe you just love this video so much you get all your ideas from that one and not so much from the others. There are some redundancy things, but I think the redundancy is important because that will help you feel more knowledgeable about disciplinary literacies, but also notice how these videos are different as well, as they're providing more knowledge for you about this concept. Again, just like before, write 2 connections that you make of one or to all 3 videos, and 1 question that you have wondering about the video. Again, I should be able to read this and to know that you watched the video, because I'm holding you accountable to doing that work. And then the last task is some reading. But before you get overwhelmed, it's 4 chapters. I think these are really, when someone asks me in the expectations, we want some practical pieces, I really think that most teachers really enjoy this. They're less theoretical and more practical. And I invite you, I hold you accountable because teachers are intellects. We've got to do that hard reading. But really, after these 4, and you only have to pick one to do what's called a 1-pager. And I can't wait to tell you about the 1-pager. But you're only going to pick one of your favorite chapters to do the writing. I'm going to be on the honor system and believe that you read all 4. I really hope you do. And if you just run out of time, I hope that you'll read them later because they're so useful for our literacy clinic. They're useful for your classroom. And I will tell you, some students pick the shortest chapter. I can't remember which one it is. They pick the shortest chapter, and that's usually not people's favorite. So you might definitely want to scan them all to kind of see which one you want to pick that you'll read first and focus in, and then maybe the other ones read more lightly without having to realize you have to take all these notes. So here's a one-pager. I used to have my 8th graders do this. First goal is you're only turning in one page. And when I mean one page, about the typical size of a one-page piece of paper, 8.5 by 11. You want to use any tool you want. You can do it here right on a Word document. You can make a PowerPoint one slide only, or just get some old-fashioned white construction paper with some pens and pencils and colors, markers, whatever you want to do. This is a really creative project, and I don't want, if you're going, I'm not an artist, I'm not creative, trust me, I'm not an artist either. And I've seen some people do some great things with this, because creativity, like beauty, is in the eye of the beholder. All you have to do is you have to worry about this criteria. If you do this criteria, there's no way you can do this wrong. A lot of people will say, can you show me what a one-pager looks like? The reason I don't want to show you one is because then that's me saying this is what I expect. I have never seen a one-pager ever look alike. And my fear is if I showed you one, you would want to do one just like it. The goal is you can't mess this up. If you follow this criteria, there is no way that you can get it wrong. So just trust me on the process. When you pick your chapter, let's say you love chapter 3. Chapter 3 will be your focus. I want you to pick 2 quotes, literal quotes from that chapter. And on your one-pager, you put the quotes anywhere you want on the page. If you want to literally just do something very linear and say, here's my 2 quotes, that's fine. And put the page number so I know which page number it came from. If you want to decorate your page, so to speak, the quotes could be anywhere. Just put quotation marks around them and put the page numbers, and I'll know that you grabbed 2 quotes. And pick 2 quotes that really capture what the essence of the chapter is. So think about the concepts that are dominating, and those quotes should reflect that. Next, you're going to illustrate. And when I say illustrate, if you're going, I'm not an artist, do not worry. You can literally do anything. You can use clip art or Google Images. Go find some Google Images. If it's at the minimum one image that you think represents the chapter, you can upload photos. If you are an artist, go for it. Draw and have fun. It's whatever you want. These illustrations can take up the entire one page. Maybe the illustration will be the most draw to the one pager, or maybe you're just going to have this small little image in the corner. It doesn't matter. You can use multiple images or just one. I just need some way of knowing that your brain visualize the reading. So your illustration is showing me the visual things that went on in your head when you read the chapter. So be creative. You really can't go wrong. Again, I'm not an artist, so I would never even try to hand draw. If I was trying to represent the chapter visually, I would probably go on Google Images for hours and try to find some really cool images that I had in my head when I was reading. Okay, next, write at least 4 single words somewhere on the paper that expresses your feelings or emotion. Literally, like if chapter 3 makes you exhilarated, write the word exhilarated somewhere on the page. Maybe you want to change the font color so it stands out, or the font size, so that I know that when I look at your one pager, I should be able to find the 4 words easily somewhere on the page. So go for it. If the article just makes you happy, or you're having a reaction to something the author said, you're frustrated, write the word frustrated somewhere on the page. Somewhere on the page, I need to see a personal statement. That's usually like a sentence or 2. Tell me a personal comment, a statement that inspired your thinking about the text. And then I want you to write 2 questions you have after reading the text. A lot of people say, well, what kind of questions? Questions can be rhetorical, like they're more philosophical. You don't really expect us to answer them, but these are larger questions you have now about the ideas that were presented in the chapter. Maybe you have a question specifically that if the author were in the room, you'd want to ask the author. Maybe you have a question for me to ask me how you think I think about the chapter. Maybe you have a question for your peers. Maybe it's just a question for yourself that you're going to take with you as you want to explore more of the topic that was explored. So I hope that helps. If you complete all 5 of these steps in one page, you will have a one-pager and you will be able to receive full credit. But I hope that you'll have fun with it. I hope you'll be creative and show your creative side. Again, there's no beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Creativity is not what's going to get you the grade. It's these things that are underlined that are going to get you your grade. So that's why you can't really go wrong. So I can't wait to see your one-pagers. Again, I have never seen anyone create the same kind of one-pager. Everyone's one-pagers are different because you're all unique and one-pagers are unique. So that's it. And then again, I always have a note down here about the more formal annotated bibliography, so that for our program goals, by the end of your student teaching, you have a running library of all of the APA citations and in this case, this is the citation for the Daniel Zellerman's chapters. It comes out of this book called Subject Matters, Every Teacher's Guide to Content Area Reading. So that's it. I can't wait. So going back up here, in La Lima, submit your reading response to 321. I really shouldn't even call it a reading response. I'm going to get rid of that. It's just call your response. It's video response. Sorry about that. That's what's good about doing these videos. I see my little typos. Submit a 321. And the reason I guess I put reading response is because that's how I would call it for my 8th graders. So I apologize. Sometimes there's a lot of language that teachers use that changes at different contexts. So your 3-2 response on the videos, again to disciplinary literacies, a one-pager for one of the 4 chapters. And then again, I'm putting 2 other things that have to do with just keeping you on task for the PK-1220 or P12 learning assignment. This is a signature assignment. You need to make sure for your literacy clinic that you have researched the community and the school. Make sure that you have a rough draft of this. I will let you know when I will collect rough drafts to give you feedback. The real final draft is not due till the very end of the semester, but it's something that you don't want to wait on, especially as this is supposed to inform you about the student that you're working with in the literacy clinic. So those of you that are working in Waipahu, you want to start learning about Waipahu Intermediate or the high school. You also, those of you, actually the literacy clinic will take place in the intermediate school. So you'll want to learn about the intermediate school and the community. Those of you that are emergency hires, you want to do this on the school where you're conducting your literacy clinic experience. And then continue to plan for the literacy clinic based on my lead in class. We'll explain all that in class. Okay, so that's it. Enjoy the videos and the one-pager. Please, as always, let me know if I can follow up with any additional directions that you might need for this